everything is related to how cheap we can do things. So people started doing some kinds of research, obviously. Well, what is it in the manure that's so important? And what is it in the green manure that we plow in that's important? I mean, there's got to be some other way to do this so that we can grow all the time, so we don't have to have green manure growing, for 4 months. We could be growing some other crop during those 4 months. So they started doing various different types of research, and they found that NPK, which is if you take a bag of fertilizer, there are 3 numbers on there. Those are usually called the NPK numbers. It has to do with the amount of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus that's in the bag. That's in the commercial fertilizers, right. And so they found that if you put in nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, those were the main chemicals that the plants were taking out of the soil, and that they wouldn't grow well enough if we didn't replenish them. So they start putting them in chemical-wise, which was really cheap, and then the plants would look good again. The problem is that, and people will argue whether there are 50 minerals that we and other animals need, or 55 or 60 or 65 or 70. They can argue forever. We're never going to really know because we keep on learning new things every year. But in any event, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of minerals that our bodies need and other animals' bodies need to keep them healthy. If you don't have enough boron, that's one of the deficiencies that you will get osteoporosis from not having enough of. If you don't have enough selenium, the cancer rate goes way up. But that's not the NPK. So in other words, they were putting in 3 things that made the plant look good.
It's green.
It looks green, and the produce seems to be good. Didn't taste quite as good, but it would look fine. But all these other different minerals, and in some cases very small quantities, which are called trace minerals or trace elements, they weren't there anymore. They'd all been taken up by the plants in the first 2 or 3 or 4 growing seasons, and they weren't being put back. So now we have beautiful looking plants, and people are not staying as healthy because all sorts of things that you and I are supposed to be getting when we eat those plants, they're not in the plants anymore. So chemical fertilizers started making people less healthy because we were just putting in what kept the plant look good, and what the people eating it needed, well, to heck with them, that's not important. Keep it looking good and keep it as cheap as possible. And then we started getting people realizing that things didn't taste as well, and maybe they didn't grow quite as fast, or whatever the reasons were. Some people went back and said, well, no, we want to keep doing the old ways. We tried using those fertilizers. We like the way the food tastes better this way, and we're going to go back. And they'd start putting in their chicken manures again, and they'd start doing the green manuring. And over many, many decades, centuries, different things that we now call organic fertilizers got developed. And I don't really mean they got developed. Developed is the chemical fertilizers. They got discovered more. So, for example, fish meal, where they take fish that would be ground up and they'd put that in. Feather meal. Who uses the feathers? The feathers are garbage. They get thrown up. But feathers have minerals in them, so they'd grind up the feathers. So we'd have all sorts of different types of organic fertilizers.